So at this moment, I have to like take some time to recollect my own thoughts and sort of come to a conceptual understanding. Like over the next few weeks, I'll be just going over my experiences throughout this time period and just evaluating them from an alternative perspective and just putting it out there, because I think that the purpose of this particular channel is just to share ideas that may be crazy, and then I will in the future compile those into either playlists or something. But I want it to be a place where I can showcase my own self, um, irrespective of how crazy the ideas are, while also approaching it from a presentative perspective. Well, by that I mean by caring what people would think when they see it, right? Because I do have another channel somewhere on the internet where I actually don't really care too much about the outcome from it, and I expect people to probably go and exploit those videos or use those videos to exploit me in one way or another. I'm comfortable with that because I know that I'll be able to defend myself, right? Because everything that I put forth there was done with a specific intention in mind, right? Like it's who I was at the time with the experience that I was going through. I'm not with that out of the way. So I want to talk about my Red Hat interviewing experience at this present moment in time, because I've had two of those interviews and they didn't go as planned. Either one, the first one was for an OpenShift architect, and the other one was for an OpenStack architect. In the same location, working on the same project. And ultimately, I just want to share my experience because I was totally looking forward to this. I was like, this is the one. I was like, this is for me, you know. I felt like this role was put forth for me, and I did put in relative effort, but I couldn't put in as much effort as I would have liked because I've got a lot of shit to do as well at the same time. And so that was that. I did have a supportive talent acquisition person I was working with. I don't know what the full title is. Acquisition recruiter. I don't know the full titles, but I did have somebody from talent acquisition team that I was working with, and they were pretty good. I applied directly. Yeah, as expected, you know, if you read the stuff on the internet, especially on Reddit, they did take a while to get back to me. But they did get back to me in the end, which is the key bit, right? And my CV was quite speculative because I did put some certs that I was working towards that I hadn't actually achieved at that particular point in time. So the role would have required me to relocate to Dubai. So part of me was like, if this happens, you know, because I approach my religious connotations from different avenues. Part of me was like, if this happens, then that means that I'm supposed to explore that path of religion in a greater depth. You know, my default is Judaism, Islamic religion. No, sorry, Judaism. It's like Judaism, Christianity, a mix of Judaism and Christianity, but more focused around the Judaic aspect. Is that's the base, right? So we all have the Torah, but the Islamic side, I've never really been too deep into it, though it does have some beneficial aspects. It's not really one that I tend to delve down. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, if this path truly opens up to the level that it was, because it would have required me to relocate to the UAE. So I was like, you know what? I'll explore it fully, you know. and try be a part of that. But obviously it didn't open up, so I'll stick to my Judaic practices as of now. But as I said, I essentially felt, and you know what, maybe it didn't open up because I wasn't a worthy individual. That could also be in another part, because a lot of the attributes and tactics and techniques that I had to influence or during my practices, even though it's like it's open, right? It's like it's spiritualism, so it's open in its approach. I did deter from them quite a bit, so that could have been one of the reasons why I didn't go through. But either way, we were sort of 5 minutes in, and haven't really got to the interview experience. But yeah, it was the first interview. Okay, so the first interview I spoke with the talent acquisition person, and that went pretty well. They just sort of tried to evaluate appropriately if I'm who I'm say I am, right? Just I'll get a gist of the CV. Then after that, they put me forward for the first technical interview. This technical interview was relatively okay, right? So the job was OpenShift, but we didn't discuss Kubernetes at all. It was more focused on OpenStack and OpenStack debugging was what we primarily explored in that interview. So they asked things like, how would you approach this particular situation? They wanted to know from my experience, but obviously my experience with working with OpenStack, I only worked in a role where I was using OpenStack for like 3 months, and then was it 3 to 4 months maybe, and then after that I sort of had like explorations through other means. So the knowledge I had was, workable, functional OpenStack knowledge. The approach I took was from an architectural perspective, right? So I was trying to give my appropriate understanding of how OpenStack could contribute to businesses. That's how the preparation that I had when I was going in. But when I got there, the guy was more so interested in the debugging methodologies of OpenStack. He didn't really speak about the OpenShift side, nor even delve into the Kubernetes side. Mainly kept to the OpenStack aspect. And I sort of gave the theoretical understanding alongside the practical understanding regarding how to monitor. Given in a mature OpenStack environment, how would you debug an issue, right? And most of the times you start by looking at the logs, looking at the alerting system, etc. So I focused on that. I discussed some of the aspects regarding the log files, right? Like how would you approach the log files? How would you prospectively, based on the issue presented, right? What particular components may be involved, and how one would inspect those components in order to identify the particular issue. That was pretty much it. The interview was relatively more technical, but I tried to give case from a business perspective, which will be ultimately relevant from an architecture perspective. I tried to give an overview of the networking, right? And how the environment itself would ultimately play a part in that ultimate understanding, the different interfaces one might have on a system. Wasn't really interested in the Nova side of things. Didn't really. Okay, so yeah, from a technical perspective, it was okay. Definitely was no OpenShift, nothing like that. I think maybe he was looking for me to talk about the Muscala. So he was probably looking at me to see like, okay, cool. Do you have the most latest OpenStack 17, which uses OpenShift as the methodology, and to debug that, what you must use the must gather methodology, right? And I don't have that. I didn't have that experience. I think that I probably would have needed in my first month, because I think one of the things that and I'll talk about the key things towards the end of this video what I really wanted, if I don't forget, because I usually do. But there were two things I really wanted from this role, and from Red Hat. So yeah, so he was basically after that. I think he was after that, but I didn't really have that. I just had like my appropriate understanding of Kubernetes, my appropriate understanding of some of the questions that he asked, and I tried to relate that to business key use cases and business value from an architectural consulting perspective, because that was my understanding of the role. But yeah, so that one didn't really go through. From a technical level, I'd say I'll give it like a 6, maybe. I just felt that, so after failing that, I didn't really get any particular feedback. I called the talent acquisition person. They just said, they didn't say anything. They just said they'll get back to me with feedback. Didn't get any feedback. I just got the email to say, that you've been rejected from this role, etc. And that was that. Yeah, that was that pretty much. But I kept an eye on some of the other roles. I passed the certifications that I was going for. Passed a few of those. I still had 2 left, which were, one of them was still difficult, which I still haven't done at this point. And now we're looking towards the end of we're looking like about a month after it. But yeah, so I got that. I managed to get the other certs, and then there's one more left. So I managed to do 3 certs, and there's one more left already paid for. But I'm gonna leave it because I don't wanna lose the opportunity, because I know that it hurts a lot when you pay for something and some of them you don't get resets, and so that would mean that I'll lose the entire cert, and I didn't want that to happen. So yeah, so left that. I see the job come back online again under the same ID, but with a different title. So now it was OpenStack Architect, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I might try again. So I got in touch with the talent acquisition person. I was like, hey, what you saying? I was like, hey, hello, can I get a re-review? Like, how do you feel about giving me a re-review? I see that the job is appearing again under the different title. Would you be willing to evaluate me again? She's like, I'll speak to the hiring manager. I was like, cool. Now for this one here, I took a whole day, right? I took a whole day of preparation. And also some of the stuff was necessary because of some of the aspects of the things that I was actually studying at the moment, or some of the project that I was getting to. So I was like, you know what? She was like, yeah, they'll give me a look over, and I was ready for this look over, so I had to properly prepare. And in that preparation process, I had to be sure and fairly certain that like I was fully prepared. I even bought like an Exponent interview study guide just to make sure that I got things on deck. Actually, no, I didn't get the Exponent for this. I got the Exponent study guide for the other one, actually. For another interview I had with another company. Maybe if I had the Exponent study guide for this, things would have gone much better. But I didn't do that. I just studied, and I had other shit going on as well. So I just ultimately studied for the technical side, because it was a technical interview, and it's worth getting rejected in the technical interview, because it's kind of like, bruh, like, I got some skill. I know what I'm doing for the most part. But yeah, so the interview day came. The guy came through. Both of them were European to some degree, which doesn't really play any part. But I think the other guy was Spanish. This guy was French. Well, I guess because EMEA. Yes. So this guy was French. Cool. Boom. He comes through. I start off with the story of my background. I really tried to make an emphasis of who I was. Technically wasn't interested, but if I was interviewing someone, I feel that would have given it enough of a background story as to the mindset and approach of the person that's being interviewed, right? So that's the approach I took. And then yeah, discuss some of the OpenStack experience. And I tried to be as technical as I could, because at the same time I didn't get feedback from the other interview, so that meant that my assumption, which I should have got feedback from the other interview, I should have asked the talent acquisition person. But yeah, so my assumption was that, like, technically I wasn't adequate enough. I didn't demonstrate enough technical aptitude, because I tried to cater to the business side of it, but I imagined that the business side of it would have been dealt with at the panel interview. So I just effectively hammered on the technical side of it. I went in depth in terms of Linux. You asked about acceleration. And then I gave enough information, but I thought he was talking about VM acceleration, but he was talking about another type of acceleration. I just said straight up, look, dude, I don't know about that type of acceleration, but I've read about it after he mentioned the driver or formula related to it, which was DPDK. Which, yeah, I just said it relates to data paths, because that's what it does, right? That's the point of it, is to improve and reduce latency and maximize data throughput by making use of specialized hardware features. You wouldn't tend to see that on the management VLAN for the most part. So yeah, so we just spoke about that. I just tried to be as technical as I could. I maybe I didn't feel that it wasn't as technical as it could have been, because maybe I didn't give him enough time and room to communicate and to question and to inquire, right? And the reason for that was that I just kept hammering with the technicalities, man. I really wanted to showcase that, because I didn't want to get buoyed off for that. He did mention that I didn't have the architectural design aspect. He did ask me a question about, can you tell me about some of the functionalities of some of the plugins, storage plugins. I'm like, bro, you know what? Yeah, when it comes to storage plugins, my only adequate understanding relating to that is that, you can have, based on a storage provider, you can have a particular plugins, such as for Ceph, for example, and you can design your storage system in a way that provides low latency and have that driver made available within OpenStack for any one of the OpenStack features that consume storage, such as Swift or Cinder, right? He went having it, man. Well, yeah, he just sort of accepted it. I couldn't go into greater depth than that, because honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't know about all the storage drivers that might have been available. I knew about the NetApp one. I knew about a couple of them, but I didn't really know about all the available ones. But I knew how I would approach it. I'll probably look at the config file, look at the storage driver, and then look at the configuration for that file. And if it's a situation where I have adequate time and the driver is not adequately, like in a work situation, and if the driver is not adequately documented, I will go in and look at the source code, be it in Python. If it's C, that ain't gonna happen. I ain't looking at the source code. But ideally, it's gonna be in some type of Python, or if it is in C or C++, it's ideally gonna have some information associated with it in regards to the parameters it takes, right? So I can look at that as an overview, but I can't, look at extreme depth in regards to that. I can look at source code to understand how to configure something, but I can't look at source code to understand as to how to modify it, and I can't look at source code to essentially to modify it. I can look at it to also understand where issues are. So if there's a problem in source code, trust me, I'll know who exactly to talk to about that particular issue. in the source code. Yeah, so that's pretty much that on the rail side of things. So yeah, and then that one came back afterwards. I don't know why he gave me a good luck at the end, man. As if, and the guy was using Gemini as well. I don't know what he was doing with the Gemini content, but I just assumed he had it on there to help take notes. I hope he wasn't using it as an evaluation mechanism. But yeah, man. So yeah, that one didn't go through, man. I was hurt, man. Cause he felt genuine, man. He felt like one of the guys. He felt like one of the guys. He felt like, not like a bro culture kind of guy, but he felt like a person who understood the approach that I was taking. And by that I just mean like he felt like a tech colleague, let's put it that way, because I don't want to incite bro culture, but I don't know, he felt like one of the cohorts, one of the tech cohorts, and you're just like, nah, man. So yeah, man, he said nah, but what I felt hurt by him, yeah, was that he should have at least allowed me to get through to the presentation stage, right? So it's to go tech, as far as I understand, is tech, then presentation, then panel, right? If I got to the presentation, I would have been able to demonstrate some level of architectural ability, right? Because in that tech interview, the approach was just, or at least I felt my approach was to demonstrate an adequate level of seniority when it comes to the dealing with technical side and solving technical issues for clients and customers, working on proof of concepts, understanding and being able to communicate effectively, and going to the right people when we encounter issues, right? So if I see an error, I understand exactly how to solve it. I know how to communicate to the client and assist in selling the product. Because one of the parts, yeah, okay, I'll get to one of the parts why I wanted to work in this particular role. I'll get into depth about that. But yeah, I think getting into the attributes of that would be one of the things that would have been demonstrated at the technical interview stage, and then at the presentation stage, right? If in the presentation interview, I would have been able to approach a level of showing how my demonstration of preparedness would be, how I'll be prepared for client meetings and engagements. I would have been able to demonstrate a better understanding of architectural concepts through visualizations. I would have been able to demonstrate my ability to prepare and communicate information, right? In a perspective that would have been able to effectively, show I would have been able to show like that level of aptitude that they said was obviously missing, and that basically hurt me a bit. And yeah, that was it, man. I was like, I ain't going through that, and then the woman got back to me with my talent acquisition person came back to me with feedback. Yeah, just like they didn't want to take that risk in this particular time because this project is so important. And you felt that I lacked the architectural, maybe design level experience kind of thing. And so yeah, man, that was pretty much it. But again, like I wasn't coming in with a full ready-made solution. I was coming to grow, and it would have been my work ethic that would have made me an asset. And if they would have gave me like a month or something to prepare with, because yeah, so why I wanted this role because I wanted to, before my career comes to, before I go into the full technical dark zone, I wanted to have the ability to work with technical sales closely, I wanted to work with them and the solutions architects at that forefront, at the edge of the business. I wanted to work with a closer relationship with them because I wanted to feel the ability of being a technical support personnel for them, through the process of client acquisition and client solidification. So I really wanted that ability to feel engrossed in part of the business in that stage, right, and be involved in each aspect, such as customer service or working with customer service personnel, technical support personnel in relating to product, observing and understanding CI/CD pipelines and feedback and feeding that information back to the users. Those are some of the things that I felt was necessary and some of the things that I wanted to really get exposure to, or at least involved in. I wanted to be involved in that frontline action, but while still being technical in one aspect, and being closely related to the customer, because it's not necessarily sales, but you still have to have that information relating to the sales aspect of how the customer got on board, right? This is after the customer has already made a purchase, right? So that information that actually led to them making that purchase is still relevant. So you have access to that information if you need it. You have access to the people that were responsible for making that sale, and you can contact them to find out more about how you should relate to some of the workshops that you undertake. So I really wanted to just be a part of that process, being as a cloud architect. And, that was one of the reasons why I felt that this role would have been great for me. And then also looking at the cases, the technical support cases that they've had to understand the pain points that these customers had been dealing with. These are some of the things that made me really want to be a part of this particular role. Yeah, so that was that. And yeah, so it didn't go through in that regard. But I think that's ultimately what I wanted to be involved in. I wanted to be a champion for these particular Red Hat products, especially the OpenStack side was more of interest in the Kubernetes side, and bringing my insights and the experience that I have from each role, even though some of them made like the maximum like a year, spend like a year on each role and a couple months in others. Still, that gives me that insight to be able to understand the customer's business from the bottom up. 4 months here, 6 months there, etc. Irrespective, those are all different roles, but it would have given me the ability to be able to provide the necessary insight from each of the customer's roles, right? Yeah. So it would have been given me the insight to be able to understand the customer's business, and be able to communicate and be effective in understanding their needs. And that's how that's pretty much what I was after for the most, or at least that's why I wanted to be in this particular architectural role, in this cloud consulting role, but it was titled as an architect. So yeah, so that's gone. And yeah, so I Red Hat wise, like I said, I'm not really after it. I don't really see. I'm feeling discouraged by permanent employment at the moment. I've got one role that's pending. Maybe it's not pending because the guy just aired me today. So, I'm feeling discouraged by permanent employment at the moment. I'm just feeling discouraged overall, and I'm feeling kind of, I don't know if it's because of my sleeping patterns or whatever, but I'm definitely feeling just, and I've got like some coursework and stuff to get through, and I just feel demotivated, But what did I want from Red Hat? The two primary things, is that a beer or a wasp? I don't know, but the two primary things were, the two primary things I wanted was, the place offered relocation would have been a benefit for me for the most part, but I wanted a Red Hat, right? I wanted a Red Hat because I just wanted a Red Hat. I thought it was cool. Not because of Helsing. Just Red Hat's cool. Although I did have one in the past. Maybe it's predestination. Like I wanted it once I had it, but then I lost it somehow. It disappeared. So yeah, so I wanted a Red Hat, and I wanted the ability, and I wanted the Red Hat Learning subscription. Yeah, so I wanted the Red Hat Learning subscription, the full subscription. I don't know if Red Hat gives those free to customers. To employees, sorry. I don't know if they give that free to employees, or if I would have had to pay for it, but I imagine I would have get like a discount or something. But I really wanted a Red Hat learning subscription, the premium one, that would have been really great for me. And I think that if I had gotten the role, I definitely would have made an effort to become a Red Hat certified architect within about like a year of doing it. Like, yeah, by the end of the, like, after being employed, by 1 year I would have been a Red Hat certified architect in whatever field that I felt was relevant. Yeah, so those are the two reasons. But I didn't know if they gave that as a bonus, as a bonus. But I think on the salary negotiation, I probably would have asked for it if they didn't give that as a freebie to their employees. Probably end up with something like LinkedIn Learn or something like that. Yeah, so that was it, man. It didn't go to plan. I didn't end up with that Red Hat, but yeah, I'm just probably gonna buy one. And I will say that when if I ever do become a Red Hat architect, because that shit costs a lot of money, man. It's like it's like 6,000. If I do ever become a Red Hat architect, I'll just buy myself the best looking Red Hat I can and consider myself an official Red Hatter. Because I don't know, in the Red Hat store, I don't think they sell like a Red Hat from Red Hat, but I'll just buy one and just consider myself an unofficial Red Hatter. Because I'm sure there are people with Red Hats who do not have that. And then I doubt I'll ever go back to Red Hat. I know they do have Red Hat research, and I doubt I'll ever do that. But I did notice though how the UK does it. So for technical roles, they don't have any of the Red Hat offices, but they do have some at the IBM section. So that's a consideration. I think that's how that works. I think all the roles have been like side loaded into IBM for that environment. But yeah, so IBM is a consideration of mine, but I'm losing motivation. But yeah, I think I do have a plan which I will talk about after a couple of weeks or so. Next week I'll discuss something else that I might feel is relevant. But for now, I think this is it. So that's my Red Hat experience, my thoughts and ambitions for Red Hat. Things in terms of plans wise, they're still in place. They're still like, I'm not gonna die after this. I don't think anyway. But yeah, as time progresses, I'll just give my own insights about things and how I feel, etc. And I might show you around where I've been. It's been nice for the most part. But yeah, I'll go deeper into that over time. But yeah, that's my Red Hat thing. So if you got an interview, I just say, prep. Let the interviewer guide the interview. Maybe question and engage. Like, there was parts where the guy looked like he was kind of bored or whatever. And I think that was just that, like, that was a problem that I had. I just wasn't engaging with the person. And like I said, the interview was relatively technical, but I might have felt that it wasn't as technical as it could have been because I wasn't giving him the ability to engage with me in conversation. And I think that he probably felt that I was just throwing, so maybe that's probably it. But we didn't talk about CPU. I think it's always difficult in technical interviews because the interviewer has to guide the yeah. I think that's the last piece of advice I'd always give. Always let the interviewer guide the process. And always ask them to check about if that's enough or if we should go in greater depth. And that's it. But I just felt like that. I just felt like I should go into greater depth and everything because in the previous one, it's horrible. I just hope that the person that they picked, I hope that I got rejected over somebody who's more technical, more in depth than I am, with a greater level of skill. That's the only good reason to be rejected from a technical interview, because I imagine that the work has to get done, and they're just looking for someone who's willing to do it. Nothing else. So yeah, that's it, man. I hope that helps somebody. It's my personal opinion. Video ended up being way longer than I anticipated. But like I said, I don't really plan these videos. I just do them. Yeah. Have a good one.